Hi everybody, and welcome to our very first group critique. What we're going to do in a minute is start looking at everybody's character sketches. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Um, but as you already have done, you've been working on your classroom in a book exercise, which was task 2. It's nice to see everybody getting involved in Photoshop and seeing how the program worked. And so I've provided feedback for those PSD files, your exercise, so you can take a look at that. What you want to just do is take a look at the feedback, make any corrections that I recommend, and then submit that to the final submission area by Sunday. If you have any questions about the assignment, feel free to just shoot me an email. Um, Email is, I think, probably the fastest way to get in touch with me. Questions to the professor is also another area that I always check every time I'm in the classroom. So either one of those or both, if you want to just cover all your bases. Um, okay, so in this assignment, as you probably already are aware, this is the very first part of our 5-week assignment where we're starting to create ideas for a character. And then what we're going to do next week is gather together the photographs. And then starting in week 3, we're going to start working on them in Photoshop. So we're kind of really building slowly through the process. Um, so these are the character sketches. So I'm going to provide some feedback, for them, things that you can change for the final submission area, so you have the best possible um, ideas. But essentially, it's just a way of starting to generate ideas for your character. And starting to think about the character. So as you work on your character, your chosen character, whichever one it is, think a little bit about who that character is. If it's Garbage Dump Dan, who is he? What does he do? How does he spend his time? Those are things you're not asked to address those directly in the assignments, but I think that the more you can kind of imagine your character in terms of the life that your character has, you know function, the job, you know how does Garbage Dump Dan like to spend his free time? Does he have a job? What is it? Those kind of things, whatever you come up with, can actually help you really understand how to start making some decisions about your design, your character design. When at this phase, and then as we go through, like, how is your character going to move? Does it have legs or wheels or multiple legs? Or maybe it, doesn't have any legs at all, but it maybe swims or flies. Those are all kinds of things that you can kind of creatively think about. When we get to the sketches, when we go to the next phase, which is the photographs for next week when you're choosing them, the assignment directions, this is just important news you can use. The assignment says that you should only, I think, choose photographs from certain places. But if you look at the announcements that I have from week 1, you'll notice that in the announcements I allow you to choose your photographs from any place. I have no restrictions on where you get your photographs from. Some classes do, and it's important to understand copyright and such for certain, but I feel like this is a beginning class, so I'm just letting you find your photographs where whether it's Flickr, Google Images, or stock photo sites, or the AI library, wherever you want to look for them, um, is fine by me, as long as they're, good quality photographs. And we'll talk more about that next week, through all the different activities. Okay, let's get started here. So we're going to get started with Lori. Let me just see if you wrote anything, any notes. In the discussion, it's good if you have questions for me directly in, your, um, when you post your project, or comments, challenges. Those are things that I can also discuss here in the critique. Okay, you're not the best drawer. Don't worry about that. Drawing really, everybody can be a drawer, basically. Some people are a little more realistic, some people are a little more stylistic. I'm more on the stylistic end, which is that, I just don't draw really realistically. But you can always communicate by drawing, whatever your style is. So keep that in mind. It's not about, having terrific realism necessarily in design. It's just being able to communicate. So ways that I think that, can help with drawing is, if you don't feel like you're super realistic as a drawer, it helps to slow down with your drawings. Just have good lines in them, even if it doesn't look, again, very realistic. Good line quality, spending time on drawings, those will make, your ideas come to life for the person looking at them. And you can also label things, which is something I really encourage folks to do for this assignment, which I think you've done here, is, if you're not sure if your idea will be communicated, you just put a label on it. So it looks to me like what you're doing, you mentioned that everything's going to be made out of food, right? So you can just on any one, maybe this first sketch, just write down the name of your character from the assignment. I'm guessing it's either Flippin' Food Fred or Flippin' Food Fran. They're just the same, really this sort of the same concept, but with uh, female, like different gendered names. So I just write that down there just to clarify it. But otherwise, so you've got jelly beans for eyes, lollipop head, marshmallows for, it looks like for the nose. Yeah, good. Yeah, this looks great. So this is exactly on track. Why is it on track? Because you're building your character out of objects. Objects is important. When we think of an object, what does an object mean? Well, it means like any sort of inanimate object. They're inanimate in the sense that they're not animals or people parts. They're all kind of everyday objects. So, and every part is built out of that. That's what you want. You want everything built out of an object, and you have a minimum of 5. I think you've got more than that. So it's great. Um, and let's go to the next one here. Oh, that's cute too. Yeah, this looks good. French toast, banana slices. Oh yeah, the egg for the body. That's nice. Yeah, these are all good. Yeah, you've got all the right track here. I like this. This looks like a watermelon body. It's nice to have a big sort of torso. For the most part, some people don't have big torsos and they get really, really great characters. But I think sometimes, thinking about your torso is like the thing that's going to hold everything together, and sort of having that nice big body can really help. Okay, these all look great. They're all right on track. So, feel free to choose whichever one appeals to you the most. You can also, this is an organic process. So next week, when you start working further on the project and going through the class, you can always make changes to it. Like if you decide, I love the character body, but maybe the head I want to make changes to, I want to change that, that's fine. You can always do lots of kind of changes as we go through. One thing I have noticed, even, pizza slices always look super cute in the drawings, but I have noticed that they're a little bit challenging to work with in a character because they kind of tend to be very flat. So they kind of tend to not be like round things, sort of, or things, not necessarily, they don't have to be circular, but things that have a lot of kind of thickness to them tend to work good for this particular character project. Okay, so that's it. Don't feel like you have to change the pizza or anything. Ultimately, when you have these 4 sketches, we're just hoping that we get one good idea, in terms of the sketch process. A lot of designers do this for all kinds of different projects out in the real world. So, developing ideas is just about finding one ideally that works for your purposes. And the other ones are like, it's all just brainstorming. Okay, so I think you're ready to go. You don't need to make any changes here for the final submission. You can just, submit this for your final submission by Sunday. Hey, Tracy, so you chose Garbage Dumped On, which is a great character. And so your presentation, your line drawings look really nice and clean in terms of the way you've drawn them, but you want to make sure that you're following the instructions for this assignment and using, the guidelines, basically what we just talked about as using 5 common objects to assemble your garbage dump Dan. Like, so for example, here you want to think about how would I assemble a character out of objects, different objects, like, what would you use? Like, think of things that, might represent garbage, for example. Like people have all kinds of different ideas for that. So So keep listening. We'll continue to talk more about the project, but I'd also recommend you take a look at the assignment directions, the instructions on the previous page in the learning path, and just review those carefully. There's a very good video in there as well that goes over it in more detail, and of course we'll talk more about it in the group critique. So you'll definitely want to redo these. Let me know if you have any questions. Well, one thing I wanted to mention, since you guys are all, design students and working in software, so in terms of when I review your work, I always use Adobe Bridge when I'm looking at PDFs. So that's what I'm in right now. I just find it a little bit easier than looking at things in Adobe Acrobat because I can scroll through them and it allows me to go through the pages. Um, in case you're wondering, it's just a nice, easy way to look at things. But when I look at PSDs, you'll notice you won't see me doing that in the classroom in a book exercise, but in the group critiques, when we get to working with PSDs, you'll notice that I will use a combination of Bridge and Photoshop just to look at files. So that's what I'm using. Okay, Janessa, let's see here. Flippin' Food Fran. Yeah, it's a great character. Oh, so cute. So ice cream hair, gumdrop eyes, donut body. Yeah, this looks right on track here. So banana arms. So the only thing you want to do here is for the eyes and mouth. Now we won't be able to add anything else but objects for our characters, like with no drawings or illustrations are going to be included in it. So if you want eyes and a mouth, then you would be creating them from something, some type of object. Okay, so you would either want to but you don't necessarily actually have to have features on your character. A lot of times, like just having like the donut body, it'll start to look like a head. So feel free to either maybe just if you don't have any, and sometimes actually adding features depending upon how it looks. Sometimes it can be a little bit cluttered. So sometimes it's better to sort of find something that looks like a head without the need for adding features. Just as an FYI, it's sort of a general class comment as well. So I would probably just take these off for now. And oh yeah, that's cute too. Cucumber body. Okay, yeah, orange slice mouth. Yeah, see, that would be, great way to work with that is to use objects for your face. That's cute too. Oh wow, look at that onion ring. Those would be so cute, wouldn't that? Yeah, you've got lots of creative ideas here. So again, this one I would just either think about putting objects for the face or removing the face altogether. Either way is fine. This is cute too. I love the idea of the pear body. Kind of, so, yeah, you said that your sketches cracked you up, and these sketches, I think that these characters can turn out to be quite funny, because like the way you design the body and exaggerate different parts, it's really, I think, can be really kind of, interesting in its own right how you design them, and they end up having a certain kind of flavor. So I like the idea of making them a little bit awkward or different shapes, how to put them together. So again, this one you just would want to do something similar just with the face, either way, taking it off or using, objects for it. Okay, that's all the only thing. Oh, I love the mushroom ears too. That was so cute too. So you're right out on the right track. That's the only thing you'd want to do to change for the Sunday submission. Young. So I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, so please just feel free to post a follow-up letting me know. I'm okay with, you know, any corrections for anybody else too. In this online environment, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to um, know how to, or if you have a nickname too. Anybody, if you have a nickname, feel free to use that instead. Whatever you want, whatever you prefer. Okay, so Garden Glitter Grace. Yeah, that's very cute. I love the idea of using all these different parts to build like a little flying creature. Most folks, I think, in class, or a lot of folks end up doing sort of more humanoid figures with arms or legs, which is also really good. But yeah, there's all kinds of different sort of creatures you can develop, you know. So yeah, this looks great. And I would just say the only thing you want to do here is um, if you want to use objects for your facial features, you can find some and use them, or feel free to take that off. if you don't want to, if you don't have any ideas for that, you can always change it later. But I think an olive head would probably work really well. It'll definitely look like a head, without the use of features. So that's the only change here. This is cute too. I love the pea pod for your main body. Sugar canes. Yeah, these are very cute. Yeah, same thing, just with the head here. Oh, you've got it all labeled here, so that's fine. Leave that one the way it is. Let's see, did I miss that on the first one? Okay, yeah. So you want to change that one. Butterfly wings, body of a snow pea. That's cute too. I'm kind of leaning towards so far one or two. This one's cute too, though, with the body, with the beats. I love how you're making all of these little legs at the bottom, like multiple legs. That's a very cute idea. Yeah, this is cute too. So I would just say on I think guess two of these sketches just kind of work with the object on the face. Otherwise, I think you're also in good shape. That's the only change you need to make in your character sketch for the final submission. Okay, Chris. Okay, Terrible Toys Todd. Okay, yeah. Um, so you're going to sort of start off with this lizard body, which sounds really great. Now, think about what is that lizard. So since you can't use animals, it has to be an object. Then you have to think about what would be a lizard body. Is that going to be a toy that you find that you maybe already know about? I'm not familiar with, I'm sure there must be some lizard toy out there that you could use. Um, like I go to this restaurant that has a lot of kids that go and they have like these, dinosaur toys made out of some kind of rubber or something on the table. So maybe you're thinking about something like that. If not, sort of maybe think about that. And same with the baby arm, that would have to be like maybe a doll, maybe you could use. And tentacles, where would those come from? What would you use for that? Um, is it some kind of toy you can think of? If you can even like, I would probably, if you already know these parts that you're going to use, just put those labels on there, like where does it come from, the specific toy. And if you don't, maybe you can do a little research now, and so you know where you're going to look for photographs, and you could label those either way. Um, this is great. Yeah. So I love the idea of the football body, the baby something something head. Not quite sure what that says. Let's see if we can. Uh, I would just reprint that, just kind of erase it and print it out. Sometimes printing is better. My handwriting is pretty terrible. So I usually print. That's how I started printing actually, was because nobody could read my handwriting. So you might want to do that. I can recognize that. So football looks like a glove. Yeah, so I think this looks good. Eyes and mouth, nose, if you're going to, use those, make sure they're objects. Otherwise, you can, take them off. But this looks good. Um, Same with this one, monkey head. What will that be? Since we can't use actual um, animals, what would that? Is there like a specific toy you have in mind for that? So I would just like teddy bear. I know what that is, so that's great. Baby arm, rattle, car wheels. Yeah, great. Okay. So I think it's just a case of going through here mostly and just relabeling these to make sure you identify what you're going to use for the object. What kind of toy would be the octopus? What are you going to use for eyes and mouth? That kind of thing. Okay, so yeah, I think you're on the right track here. I think you've got very creative ideas for putting your characters together. And Terrible Toys Todd is always very inspiring. Like how are you going to make him terrible? Like what is it about him that will be terrible? There's all kinds of ways you can, you as the designer can create that concept. I don't think there's one specific way. So you can think a little bit about that, but I think any of these characters will look good. Just make the required changes for the final submission area and you'll be in good shape. Hey, Shamika, yeah, you're not being graded on your drawing skills, really more of your communication skills, and you don't need to be a good drawer to do that. So yeah, don't worry about that. Okay, flippin' food, Fred. Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, these look great. Yeah, and I think your drawings look just fine. You know, again, like you've drawn slowly, clearly, good line weight, you've labeled things. That really is the most important thing here. And yeah, you've got all kinds of different objects here to work with. What was your body in this one? That slice of cheese. Okay, yeah. Uh, Cucumbers, hot dogs. Yeah, this looks good. Fudge brownie. I haven't had lunch. Straws. Okay, good. Yeah, these all look good. Yeah, nice ideas. Um, cut cucumber, cut onion, potato. That sounds fun. Black-eyed peas, uncooked noodles. Yeah, I can see really, yeah, those could be really cute too. Okay, yeah, these look good. So I would say the only thing in terms of your presentation is when you're photographing, maybe get a little more light onto your drawings so that, you know, they're not so dark. You can actually also alter stuff in Photoshop, take it into Photoshop and adjust the color there. It's a great use of Photoshop. But you know, I think these are okay. They're still easy to read. But if I were looking at these as a client, you know, we're always thinking down the road to, you know, our boss, our client, or art director. I would say, yeah, these photographs look a little like these scans could, or you know, photographs or scans could be a little better. You know, it's always presentation is so important in design because that's what we really are as designers. And even when we start you know, starting classes, our whole goal is to become a professional designer. So some of the skills that we learn along the way are good presentation. So if a client is impressed, you know, can really understand your ideas easily, your presentation looks clean and professional, it doesn't have to be fancy, but just something that's clear, then that really goes a long way at presenting your ideas. So that could be something that you know, maybe work on a little bit more on this. Hey, John, flippin' food, Fred. That's a great choice. Okay, yeah, this looks good. I love the watermelon body. We've seen that a few people using watermelons, and I think there's a good reason for that, is that they're very like kind of round, large. They some of them especially have, you know, interesting kind of textures and stripes. So they make a really good body, I think. Cucumber legs. Yeah, good. Yeah, you've got all the different parts. Cinnamon sticks, black olives. That's really cute too. Now you heard my in my previous comments just my reservation about using pizza slices. Um, that doesn't mean you can't use them. Just you know, if you do, it's like you have to be a little bit aware of how they work. You know, because they're so flat. Um, and it's actually not just that they're flat; is that they have so much detail on them because they have all these wonderful toppings, that makes it hard to kind of read them as part of a character. Um, and that just, you know, I wouldn't have known that prior to teaching this class. It's just one of those things after teaching this class a while, I've kind of learned a few of the kind of ins and outs of what makes a character work. And they're, you know, mostly you can just use whatever objects you want and be creative. I just found only a, you know, kind of a handful of sort of best practices that I'll be mentioning. Oh, I love the idea of a charcoal grill body. That's really cute. When I first looked at it, it almost looked like a waffle to me too, which is a cute element. Um, okay, yeah, these are great ideas, and I don't see any changes you have to make here. I think you're ready to, you know, go to um, the next milestone with this. Okay, Terrible Toys, Tanya, she's a great choice too. By the way, folks, um, if you go to the, I think it's the welcome area in the classroom. Yeah, it's called Welcome. I have actually some more finished examples of projects. If you haven't yet seen them, you might want to take a look. They're, you know, student examples from the very end of class. So, but just, you know, it's nice to see a few more examples of how different students have solved this. And there is an example of Terrible Toys, Tanya, in there. Um, okay, let's see. You have a beach ball, pinwheel, fan. Oh, I love that idea of a fan for the skirt. Yeah, these look great. Yeah, so you know now probably what I'm going to say about the face, that you actually need objects for the face if you're going to have a face. So that's the one thing you want to correct here. Um, oh, this looks cute too with, this is a toy UFO body. Very cute. Yeah, it is. They're all good elements. And oh yeah, puzzle for the head. Yeah, these look very cute. Yeah, so I would say all these look great. And so the only thing you just want to change for these guys is the face. And oh, I like this element too as a body. That's very nice, kind of stacked, kind of triangular sort of shape. Okay, all right. So yeah, just make those changes for final submission. Come on, so you've chosen Flippin' Food Fred. And yeah, so you've got a hot dog, some Red Wings. Now, what you want to do here is you want to have a minimum of 5 objects to build your character. So I keep experimenting with this one. What else can you add here? Maybe the eyes, the mouth could be your objects, maybe something else, that you could work on. So I would keep experimenting. And omelet, bread, French toast, lollipop. Good, you've got 4 here, so maybe just one more. Maybe the eyes in here you want to work with. Just remember 5 is a minimum, folks, so you can always add more. Whenever the assignment says minimum, it's not bad to go above that. Yeah, same with this one. So you just want to have 5 objects. Um, Oreos, donut, red something vines. Oh, okay, licorice, omelet, and French toast. French toast? French, French something. Yeah, French toast. So yeah, so these that would you'd have 5 here. So this is great. I would say in terms of your presentation, it would be good to maybe slow down your drawing a little bit more. Sometimes I think sketching works really well, but sometimes I think that drawing a little more slowly and kind of, especially if you're not drawing really realistically, can make your objects look a little more solid. So I might do that as you revise. So that's what you want to do with this. Okay, everybody, that wraps up our group critique. Let me know if you have any questions.